When you're hunting for a laptop that can actually replace a desktop workstation, it's easy to get lured by cheap, gaming machines that promise raw power on a budget. I've seen too many creators buy a flashy GPUic notebook for a fraction of the price, only to find the thermals choke the performance after a few hours of real work, and the battery dies before they can finish a single render. The regret that follows feels almost inevitable, and it makes you wonder if there's a smarter way to spend your money, especially when you need a reliable mobile workstation for heavy-duty tasks like 3D modeling, high-resolution video editing, or running multiple VMs. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The HP ZBook Fury G11 16-inch is the kind of machine that shows up in professional forums as a no-compromise option, and that reputation is worth dissecting before you click Add to Cart. I spent a solid week putting the unit through the motions that matter most to power users: opening massive After Effects projects, compiling large code bases, and running intensive simulations in SolidWorks. My goal was to see if the hype translates into a day-to-day experience that actually saves time, rather than just a laundry list of impressive numbers. First off, who should consider this laptop? If you're a freelance VFX artist who needs to travel between client sites, a data scientist juggling big data sets, or an architect who runs complex render farms on the go, the ZBook Fury's core strengths line up with those demands. The 13th Gen Intel i9-13950HX packs 24 cores, and paired with 64 GB of RAM, it delivers the kind of multi-threaded muscle that lets you keep dozens of Photoshop tabs open while a background DaVinci Resolve export runs unhindered. That level of headroom is something you rarely find outside of a full-size tower, and it translates into real savings. I could close the laptop after a long day, reopen it the next morning, and pick up right where I left off without the 20-minute re-render I'd been forced to endure on older machines. On the flip side, if your workflow is limited to email, web browsing, and occasional office work, this laptop is overkill. The price tag reflects not just the raw silicon, but also the professional certifications. HP includes vPro for remote management, ISV validation for key creative apps, and an extended warranty option that's standard on enterprise gear. Those benefits rarely matter to a student or a casual gamer, and the extra cost can feel unjustified when the use case doesn't demand it. Now, let's talk about the practical strengths that actually show up in the field. The 2TB SSD is a huge win for anyone dealing with large media assets. When I copied a 250GB 4K video library from an external RAID array, the transfer finished in under 3 minutes thanks to the PCIe 4.0 interface. That speed isn't just a brag right. It means you can ingest footage on the road and start editing within the same session, which is a massive productivity boost for field crews. The display, a 16-inch WQUXGA panel at 3840x2400, is another area where the ZBook truly shines. The factory-calibrated color gamut covers over 100% of the Adobe RGB space, so you can trust the shades you see while grading color or matching textures. In practice, this meant I could do a full color correction pass on a 10-minute short film without having to double-check on an external monitor. The high pixel density also reduces eye strain when you're scrolling through complex CAD schematics for hours on end. Thermal management is often a weak point on high-performance laptops, but HP's vapor chamber cooling system held up better than I expected. Under a sustained load running a 12-core Blender render at 100%, the CPU temperature hovered in the low 80s Celsius, and the fan noise stayed around a moderate hum. It never crossed the threshold where the system throttles dramatically, which is a relief when you're in a quiet studio. That said, the cooling solution does add weight. The chassis feels solid, but at 7.2 pounds it's not the most portable option if you plan to carry it on a daily commute. Battery life is another realistic metric that often gets glossed over in marketing copy. With the 99WH pack, the ZBook managed roughly 5 hours of mixed usage email, light Photoshop work, and occasional video playback before needing to plug back in. That's respectable for a workstation with a power-hungry CPU and a high-resolution screen, but it's not something you can rely on for an 8th-hour flight without a charger. If you need true all-day unplugged operation, you'll have to budget for a spare battery or an external power brick. One hidden trade-off that's easy to miss until you open the box is the keyboard layout. HP sticks with an English-US QWERTY arrangement, and the keys have a decent travel distance, but the function row defaults to H-specific shortcuts rather than standard media controls. You can remap them in Windows, but it adds a small learning curve if you're used to a more conventional layout. For developers who spend countless hours typing, that extra step might be a minor annoyance. Connectivity.